Today I'm going to talk about fees, and obviously, fees, very big topic. I'm going to talk about specifically what fees look like at the app layer and what I think they could look like at the app layer and why it's important that we think about this and move very quickly in this direction. Yeah, so the reason I'm talking about this is I've had hundreds of conversations with people building in this space who are dead set on not charging. And I've been one of those people. Like Superfluid doesn't charge at the moment. And we've talked to a lot of people building stuff that simply believe that their product should be free and believe that they have to absolutely find other ways to monetize. And I love that, right? I've been in open source since I was 15, long time. I did my first contribution when I was 15. And for me, it's always been about free and open source software, right? So what we have is we have all these essential pieces of open source software that are completely free at the moment, right? So you might know these logos. If you know all of them, points for you. If you don't know some of them, you might not be a dev. So these are all dev products. Over there you have Gnosis, Callabland, Snapshot. I just put these because this is stuff I actually use every day and I've never paid for. And I would pay for them because they provide a ton of value to me. But at the moment, no one's paying for them. But this stuff needs ongoing maintenance. I spoke yesterday with people working on Web3.js. We were talking about how Truffle is not being supported anymore. Software dies if you don't keep working on it. And you can't keep working on it if you don't charge for it, unless you believe that we can forever rely on grants and forever rely on donations. And the unfortunate reality, in my opinion, is that that simply won't work. So free open source software, it's been around since the 70s, shaped the way the industry looks like, right? A lot of the stuff we use has been built for free and it's thanks to the licensing that this software has that we can even build on it, right? Before that, a lot of software was proprietary, even throughout the 80s, 90s, 2000s, there was a ton of proprietary software. Now, open source is taking over in a very big way, and in the Web3 space, obviously, even more. However, these projects do continuously struggle for funding, and this makes them prone to corporate capture. And that's something I think we should talk more about because it's starting to happen in Web3 as well, where you have big corporate in Web3 is a bit of a funny word, but you have big commercial interests who start funding changes, they start funding open source projects, and it's nice to think of a donation as something that has no strings attached, but that is not the case most of the time, right? Lobbying is basically donations, right? And we know that lobbying comes with strings attached. And that's the same in Web3. If you don't have a clear-cut governance model, and if you're not independent, then your donors are your lifeline, and you have to do what they say, right? And donors don't necessarily look like people getting money. It could also be people providing work, right? So there have been, for example, a few EIPs, which were controversial, because the people working on them have very successful commercial companies, and they're pushing for an EIP. Why are they pushing for that EIP, right? Why should the rest of Ethereum accept that? Well, why not, right? Like, these conversations need to be had, and if your protocol doesn't have, your protocol or your project doesn't have clear governance and doesn't have monetization, this stuff will happen to you, and you need to know that it will happen to you. So, reasons to monetize, very clear. One is independence, right? You get to decide if you have the money to keep funding your project, you get to decide what to do. Sustainability, so you can actually keep working on this stuff and you're not always struggling to pay for stuff. You can also build better, right? Your customers are paying you, they will tell you what they need, and you can listen to them because it's not just random people making PRs on your repo. And you can keep innovating, because the other thing is, if your project doesn't have funding, you can put it out there, maybe it's low maintenance, it's out there, it works, everybody's happy, but there's no V2, no V3, at some point it will disappear, and all that work, your legacy won't keep going. So something I'd like to talk about as well is seemingly free products, because this is the other thing, right? If you don't have a very clear-cut business model, eventually you run out of money, you have to invent a business model, and that business model is often something that's slightly not aligned. So for example, if you look at wallets, right, for years we used MetaMask, it was completely free, everybody was talking about the fact that, you know, MetaMask had no business model, and then suddenly one day they became the most profitable company in Web3, right? They did that by adding fees on swaps. So they have a swap feature, you go there, you pay fees, and they make money. And to me, this is actually quite similar to how Web2 giants make money from advertising. Because the value they're providing to consumers has nothing to do with the monetization feature. And I actually think this is a big problem. So ads suck, right? We probably can all agree with that. Nobody wants ads. You seldom see ads in Web3 products. So maybe we should all just add swaps, right? Because work for MetaMask, that's just all adds a swap feature in everybody's applications that will all make money. Well, I hope we don't. So I think fees are good, but hidden fees are bad, and swap fees are hidden fees. Like when you go and you swap on Uniswap and you pay 0.15% just because you're using their UI, that, as much as they might add it, that's a hidden fee. People don't understand the difference between slippage and fees. You're just leaving money, you don't know how much you're paying. If I asked you, how many fees have you paid to Uniswap this year, you have no idea, right? And that's because it's a hidden fee. If I ask you how much you paid for Netflix, you know that, right? And that is the difference between a transparent and non-transparent fee. And I hope we don't add swaps to every app, because swaps really are a Web2 legacy thing. Like adding, you know, fees on foreign exchange is how cards, how banks make money, right? We can probably do better. So the other thing is that it's not aligned. Like if I told you that your wallet where you keep all your money makes all of its money by directing you to swaps, then clearly their interests are not aligned with what you want from them. You want security, they make money from swaps, right? Like, of course, there's an implicit assumption they'll keep investing in security, but that's not how they make money. If I were paying for the security directly, like I do when I buy a hardware wallet, right, then it's way more aligned, right? I'm buying a wallet, I'm paying for security, there's no misalignment. So I believe that this is a better model, right, where you provide value to a user and you charge for it. So things like, you know, customer support, hosting with 2 features, white labeling, continued security. Like, this is how you should be monetizing open source, right? You should provide value on top of your software that is very clear cut and that it's obvious that you can charge for. And this should be obvious, but right now, all the products I mentioned at the beginning provide this stuff for free. This stuff shouldn't be free. Like, you should not provide customer support for free. That's somebody on the other end of a line who's answering your questions, right? You should charge for that. That is valuable, and people will pay for it. And the same, you know, with hosting. I mean, obviously, a level of free interface is always valuable to get people hooked, but I can assure you, we as a company would pay Gnosis Safe for a direct line of communication and support. And like we would, a lot of other people would, right? Because it's where we keep our entire company assets. But they don't charge, right? Because free open source, you can ask him why they don't charge. I actually don't know. But yeah, I want to make a case for subscriptions because, well, Superfluid does them, but also because I think they're better. It's a very honest and transparent and clear way to monetize. You know exactly how much you're paying, right? You know how much you're paying Netflix, you know what your rent is, you know what your salary is, because it's one number that you can remember. You have no idea how much you're paying on swaps. You have no idea how much you're paying on card international settlement fees. Those are hidden fees, and you shouldn't monetize like that. You should use something that will align you to your customers and focus you on keeping the promises that you make to those customers rather than having side quests where you make money. So focus on providing value and charging and making that value very clear to the customer, right? If you're Gnosis Safe, you're the safest wallet in the space, you should charge because you're providing security. So I found a really cool example, actually, from Costco. So Costco is, you know, one of the biggest retailers in the US, famous for being cheap, right? In fact, they're so famous for being cheap that they're, they have the lowest prices, and they have consistently the lower prices. And if you go and look at the numbers, they actually have incredibly low margins on all the products, which means as a consumer, you go to Costco and you know that you're not getting scammed. You're paying a really low price every single time. So the way they do this is for memberships. So basically it's almost as if they took out the margin from individual purchases and they just add it as a membership fee, which is yearly. They have 128 million subscribers, which is pretty big. And that allows them, again, to be one of the top 10 retailers with the clearest business model that you'll find in retail, right? You're literally becoming a member, and then you almost don't pay margins on the stuff you buy, right? You're almost buying at cost, which is incredible if you think about it. And their users know that when they go there, they don't have to question how much they're paying, right? They know they're always getting the cheapest price. And if you think about it, this drives a lot of engagement, right? Because there's always a purchase cost, right? When you go and buy something, you're always thinking, oh, maybe that other place will be cheaper. If you can eliminate that, you actually increase the number of individual transactions that your users will make, while keeping them loyal, right? So the moment you hook your user through a subscription, they become much more engaged. And it's the same with Amazon, right? You get Amazon Prime, and then you know that on every transaction you're going to pay less because you don't pay for delivery anymore, right? So getting a user base of core paying, subscribing customers, even with a very low subscription, and in exchange promising them much cheaper interactions with your product is a really, really good model, works really well in Web 2, and to be honest, I see no reason it couldn't work very well in Web 3 as well. So in Web 3, we also, obviously we benefit from better alignment and clear cash flows, right? Clear cash flows are something in Web 3 we don't really have much of, but it helps a lot even with valuing your project from a token point of view. But then we also have some Web3 native things we could do, right? So for example, you could tie token distributions with revenue generation, right? Your user could be paying you a subscription, you could stream them back some tokens. This would allow them to become owners as they are customers, right? And you can also build in a lot of interesting stuff. You can have native revenue sharing, loyalty rewards, referrals, and this stuff is really easy to build in Web3 because your payments are on chain. You just need a smart contract to kind of give the user back the stuff that you're promising them. So personally, I think there's no reason we shouldn't use subscriptions in Web3. They work very well. They're the basic revenue model for all of Web 2. And so much so that even companies that relied on ads are now starting to introduce them. So you can subscribe on Twitter, right, to creators. I actually got asked if I want to subscribe to Instagram a few days ago because of some EU regulations. So now you can pay Instagram to avoid ads. Same with YouTube, right? So most of the web is going to move to subscriptions. There's no reason we shouldn't do the same in Web3, except for a staunch resistance to charging our customers, which would be our downfall if we keep going in that vein. Okay, so this is when I pitch you Superfluid subscriptions. Yay, that's what we do. They're green, black, work very well. They're composable, programmable, fully customizable, and we don't charge any hidden or visible fees at the moment, but we will never charge you hidden fees. I can assure you that. Users pay in streams, so as a user, you just make one transaction and you start paying your users over time. You can create a checkout very easily, customize everything. It's deployed on IPFS and it supports NFT gating. So for example, I mentioned before customer support, right? You can literally go here and in 5 minutes using this and Collabland, you could have a gated customer support chat in your Discord, right? Very, very easy to do. Charge your users $1 a month and see what happens. Charge them $10 and see what happens, right? I can assure you people will pay because customer support is super valuable, especially for core infrastructure. And yeah, that's what we do. If you want to start monetizing, if you want to talk about subscriptions, if you think everything I said is stupid, please come and talk to me. Happy to have these conversations. I just want to help make Web3 more sustainable and make sure that the products and services that we use and we love do not fall for donations from Google. Like we've seen a few projects now aligning with Google rather than other Web3 projects, but also just not dying, right? Unfortunately, even in the Superfluid ecosystem, we've seen projects run out of money, right? And they never charged. Well, if you never charge, you are more likely to run out of money. So come and talk to us. Thank you.